Okay.
Let's start with kind of a lighter one.
Okay.
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 When was the last time that you felt joy?
I'm going to give you a weird answer. I don't know if I exactly know what joy is. So I don't know how to answer your question because I think I know what joy feels like, but I don't know what I intellectually know what it's supposed to feel like, but I don't know what it feels like. So I don't know. I mean, I guess the last time I might have felt joy was when I left Bruce, but that's like, it's not joy all by itself. It's complicated, and that's full of lots of other things. That's my answer. I don't know. Which scares me that I don't know what this is what I thought I was going to run up against, was like lots of these feelings like I don't know. The joy of being on my own and being able to do new things, but then also with that was like a lot of like pain and heartbreak and guilt and shame and all kinds of stuff. So I didn't really have time to enjoy that joy. And so that brings up a question then of like how much of joy is based on enjoying the joy at that moment. And if you don't know there's joy at that moment, then did you ever feel it in the first place? Like, not that you didn't feel the joy, but does that make sense? Like if you're not there to feel it, it happens, but you don't, the tree still falls, but you don't hear the noise. And the noise is what you want to hear. Is this making sense? I don't know. I'll stop here. That's my answer. There we go.
Are your thoughts narrated, and how does your inner voice speak?
Well, this one, you've chose a good one, because this one I can probably answer pretty quick. I do not speak to myself well at all. I call myself an idiot on a regular basis. Not as bad as it used to be, but it's still hard to stop that. That's because I have anxiety, and it's interesting. I've learned that anxiety can be way worse. Like, I thought mine was pretty bad. There's a guy I follow who has his clothes are separated. His outside clothes cannot touch his inside clothes. If he goes halfway out the front door, they're considered outside clothes, and if he has to come back in, he has to take them all off, put them in the bin, and put his inside clothes on. So I'm not narrated that badly, but I don't like when things are unfair. My brain doesn't, so that's my brain really, that's like a trigger for me to start narrating things. Or if I don't know all the facts, and I know you can't know all the facts all the time, but some facts to me are important and they aren't important to other people, and so if I don't know those, I will start filling in. And so that's when my mind decides to like narrate an idea or a story. I also get them in the form of intrusive thoughts. And they're not bad intrusive thoughts. I follow a gentleman on Instagram who sometimes has intrusive thoughts like, you should harm yourself, kind of intrusive thoughts. When I was a kid, I always wanted to put my finger in the bike spokes while it was going. I knew what would happen. I knew your finger would get mashed up. But I always wanted to, and looking back now, I can see that was that I was trying to fill in a hole. Like, I couldn't just have it. I had to have the feeling, what we were just talking about the question before. I intellectually knew you couldn't put your finger in the thing because it would hurt it, but like it was the feeling that I was, because that to me is what is the real answer, not necessarily the intellectual answer sometimes. Sometimes the answer is the feeling. And that's, yeah. I do. So my intrusive thoughts are frustratingly I don't want to harm other people, but I want to fuck up their lives. This is a really weird thing, and I can't even believe I'm going to say this on camera. But like, I don't even know if I should say this. You can maybe might not use it, but weirdly, we have a new company that owns our building, and I know it's not the landlord's fault, but I just want to do things to make his life more difficult. And I've done one thing once, and I felt so shitty after. I felt so shitty, and I was like, oh, so interesting. Your brain wanted you to do that. Then when you did it, it was the exact opposite feeling of what you thought you'd get from doing that. And so I'm working really hard to just let those be throwaway thoughts. Like I know they're not real, so I just kind of let them. But it's still frustrating that that's what my intrusive thoughts are, because I don't want to do that to anybody. But I think it stems from being a highly sensitive person, and so I suck up everybody's emotions. So this came to me the other day. I'm wondering if that has to do with some sort of idea of like, well, if I have to put up with all this shit, if I have to suck up all your fucking emotions, then fine, I'm going to release them back out and you're going to have to deal with them. And I'm wondering if that's what that intrusive thought narration is for me, is trying to get rid of all the feelings that I can't stop from soaking up. I guess for anybody, if they want to know what I'm talking about, I have a hard time walking past like groups of homeless people. I will just start crying. Old people, seniors in predicaments, like it can even be, the other day there was like an old guy, reminded me of my ex-partner, sitting on his little walker, smoking a cigarette just on the side of the street, and I just burst into tears. And so then that's where the narration comes in, is sometimes my mind just wants to like flesh out the story, and so I will just start filling in so fast that like sometimes I can't even do the things to stop it, because it's so fast and it's so frustrating. Because I don't want to waste my energy, my social currency on these stupid ideas that don't make anything better. But my brain just loves to do that, and so it gets frustrating sometimes. It's hard to function sometimes or be around things. It's hard to go to events because there's just so much. Yeah. So yes, I do narrate. Yeah, and sometimes I wish I could narrate good things. That would be really great. I wish like I would narrate ideas about where I want my life to go and that sort of thing. But no, my brain decides to narrate silly stories. Yeah.
You could tell your younger self one thing, what would it be? There we go.
That's June 83.
Turn into this camera.
Yeah. I don't know. It's a hard one. Part of me just wants to say that it's going to be okay, but I don't know. Something about that seems really trite, and I don't know. Maybe like to tell him that the world kind of made you see that there was only one path forward, and just question that, because there's other ways forward, and those might have been more interesting choices. Not that the choice you made was bad, but I just don't think you fully understood how many other paths there was. Yeah, that's probably what I tell him. Yeah.
Were you ever bullied? And if you were, what's something that still sticks with you?
I got bullied a lot, mostly for being gay. It was worse in Prince George because we were bused like 20 minutes from where I lived into town, from this area called Beverly Heights. So we were always referred to as the Beverly Hillbillies, which was fun. Yeah, in elementary school, it started at an air band. I did Tiny Tim. If you don't know who Tiny Tim is, he's this singer, and he has a very high-pitched voice and really long hair, and he wears overalls, and he plays a ukulele, and at the time, he would be considered slightly creepy looking and that sort of thing, and he sang in this very high-pitched voice about tiptoeing through the tulips. And so that's the song my mother got me to do for air band, and I threw tulips out at the end, and all the mothers loved it. The kids, on the other hand, decided to call me Kaylum from that point on. So, kids, so smart with the nicknames. And so then that moved to the high school we had to bus to. And then when I moved to Chase, because I was the new kid, and then the first day, so we were playing lacrosse like in the winter, and I broke the lacrosse stick over the alpha male's shin. Apparently he still has a scar to this day. And then I got thrown in the showers, and so from that point on I was made fun of till probably about 11 or 12, and then people would make fun of me, but it was just sort of accepted at that point. It was kind of weird. A few things have stuck with me. Not really anything anybody said, but things that happened. There was only once I moved to Kamloops to go to university. That's when I officially told everybody, and then I discovered that one of my good friends, who was he was the year younger than me in Chase, who I had a crush on, didn't really want to talk to me anymore. I just remember him and Rob McKim, who was the alpha male who I broke the stick over, didn't really want to talk to me anymore, and Rob McKim made sense to me. But the other guy never did. And I was just gay, and all of a sudden he didn't want to talk to me anymore, and I just didn't exist. And that I didn't understand how you could just do that. It just seemed really strange to me. And then the other weird thing I remember, it was less about being bullied, but being gay, was once I moved to Kamloops and going to university, one of the kids I used to go to elementary school with in Prince George, Doug, was going to university in Kamloops. And Doug wouldn't talk to me. He would ignore me. And he used to hang around with this guy, Dustin, all the time. And it was very obvious to me. I was like, you guys are going out. It's clear. And Doug and I talk now, and he's later apologized because he was weird about him being gay, even though it was very obvious that him and Dustin were doing stuff together, but didn't want to acknowledge me. It was this really weird thing, and those are the two things I remember the most about being gay. One more thing. I used to go to youth group in Chase. I knew I was gay, but I used to go to youth group, not because I believed in religion, but because they play board games. And I like to play board games, and they did stuff at youth group that I like to do. So I didn't really drink and smoke a lot and that sort of thing. It wasn't until grade 12. And even then, it was mostly I just hang out at the party. I wouldn't really do much. And I remember being very confused because our pastor, I just remember this. We just finished watching Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. It's considered sort of in the breadth of musicals that gay men should know. At the time it was. And so I thought it was really funny and ironic that after that he went on his little sermon to us about how gay people, and this was the first time I'd ever heard us talked about this way, how we don't deserve the ground we walk on, we should all be shipped off to an island. And I remember going home thinking but we just watched one of the gayest musicals ever, so I'm really confused confused about now looking back that I'm older, maybe that's why that particular sermon happened during the musical. I don't know. But yeah, those are the things I remember. I only remember being gay being bad when I started getting told that it was. Up until that point, it didn't seem, it was neutral. So, but I do remember that too. Like, yeah. The bullying wasn't as bad as like what some other kids had gone through, but it was also in the 90s, so there was no social media. There was like, I could leave school, I could go home, and the bullying would stop. So it's very, and I know this is weird, but like I grew up in the 80s, so like the culture in the 80s and stuff, like my dad, bullying was weird for me because my dad still spanked me. Like I was coming out of that sort of culture. Like that culture was still happening. Like I remember seeing TV shows like where like kids are getting spanked. I think I possibly remember getting a kid getting spanked in like a parking lot. Like that was a trope you'd see in 60s and 70s and 80s shows, and so that was like normal, that sort of thing. So like maybe that affected what I thought about bullying. But like I never, like my bullying was never being hit or anything like that. It was always like verbal, and not that that makes it any better, but it wasn't physical. It was just like verbal stuff. But it was at a time where I could go home, and I was home. I was with my mom and dad, and there was no computers, so like it didn't follow you to your house. So it was also different. I really think bullying is really different now for kids, and I don't know, obviously the way the world is, kids are stronger now, but I wonder how kids make it through that sort of thing. But then also I feel maybe gay kids it's more accepted now, so maybe they've got more friends in school that they can lean on, where I really didn't. Like nobody knew I was gay till grade 12 when I told my best friend, who then had to tell our best friend John because she couldn't handle it, and so then John couldn't handle it, so he told Benny Anthony at a party. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know if that contextualizes the bullying a little bit, but like it was, and not that that's an excuse, but it just was different back then in the, yeah. I just have other friends, gay friends, who like were physically, and for me it was just being called gay. I think the most physical thing was I got a locker door slammed, not on me, but like somebody went by and slammed the locker door. The shower was the only physical thing. I guess that counts as a physical one, but yeah, that was the only time I ever got the shower too. Like I never.
What is the shower?
Oh, they when you're changing in the change room, they wait till all your clothes are on, and then they grab you and they turn the shower on and they push you in the shower, so you have to be in wet clothes for the rest of the day. Because I was busted, so my mother would have to come and pick me up, or you just stay in wet clothes for the rest of the day. Yeah. Yep. Oh, and that's not even the worst of it. Some of the stuff my friends had to be put through was bullying for gay people at that time is what you would have had to gone through if you joined not a sorority, what's the male version in America?
Fraternity.
Yes. You'd get hazed. That's kind of what bullying was for me when I was a kid in like the 80s and 90s, was like stuff that you'd get hazed with, like that sort of thing. I think hazing probably gets worser, but that's probably where they get the idea of hazing from, is the bullying. And you get locked in a locker. That was another big thing. You get locked in a locker at school, or that sort of stuff. You get shoved in something. There's a lot of shoving. I mean, these bullies aren't too, what's the word I'm looking? They're not very innovative with their ideas on, how to bully.